Welcome back to the lesson Nationalism in India. Before starting with the new unit, let's recall what we have learnt in the previous unit towards civil disobedience. In the previous unit, we learnt Mahatma Gandhi had to withdraw the non-cooperation movement because of certain reasons in the year 1922. The reasons were because of the Chauri Chaura incident, which turned violent with the police, as well as some Congress leaders. They were tired of the mass struggles and they wanted to participate in the legislative councils to oppose British policies, as well as Mahatma Gandhi saw that the satyagrahis had turned violent in many places and he wanted to train these satyagrahis to be ready before entering into the mass struggles. We have learned two factors which shaped Indian politics. The first was the Simon Commission, which was established in the year 1927, which was disfavored by the Indians because it did not have any Indian members, as well as they did not show any indication towards Swaraj. The second factor was the economic depression which was faced all over the world, and it was badly hit by the various sections of the Indian society. We learned that in 1929, under the Lahore Congress session, under the initiative of Jawaharlal Nehru, it was decided that we want Purna Swaraj, the complete independence. The famous Salt March, which was initiated by Mahatma Gandhi, began in 12 March 1930, which marked the beginning of civil disobedience. But the protests, the movement which went under civil disobedience movement were brutally crushed up by the Britishers. We also saw that how different sections in the society responded towards civil disobedience movement and how the meaning of Swaraj was different to the different sections. Like the rich peasants, they participated in the civil disobedience to protest against the high revenue demand. For the poor peasants, they wanted the rents to be forgiven. And for the industrial working classes, they were fighting against the low wages and the poor working conditions. We also learned that how there were some groups in the Indian society, those who had shown limited participation in the civil disobedience, like the Dalit group and the Muslims, those who had a distrust and suspicion towards the Congress, who had the Hindu majority community. They had a fear that in future whether they'll get the representation under this Hindu majorities. We also learned that Gandhiji, how he wanted all the different sections to come together in a united campaign. Now, today we shall be starting with the new and the last unit of this chapter, that is the sense of collective belonging. India, a country with variation in landforms, the community, the caste, the lifestyle, the food habits, region, religion, language, everywhere there is a difference. And with such differences, how did the nation became a reality in the minds of people, and how did this sense of collective belonging develop? Nationalism spreads when the people, when they have a feeling that they all belong to same nation, or they discover some unity binds them together. This is what sense of collective belonging. Now let's study how it was developed in India. Yes children, the modern education, the railway system, the telegraph, the postal system, the printing press, this all they were brought up by the Britishers in India for their convenience as well as for the better administration in the country. But it indirectly connected the different regions of our country, as well as it united the country people to come together for the united struggle. There were also a variety of cultural processes that developed nationalism and captured people's imagination. The history and fiction, songs and icons the folklores and the popular prints all played a major role in the making of nationalism. Now let's understand, let's study how this nationalism was practiced in our country. It was mainly practiced through four main ways. They are through main cultural processes, Indian folklore, icons and symbols, and reinterpretation of history. Let's start with the main cultural processes. The identity of the nation was most often symbolized by a figure or an image. This helped to the artist to create an image with which the people could identify the nation. As we have studied in the 19th century, the artists used to create image, they used to create female allegories to represent the nation. As in France, she was Christine Marianne, and the Germania, she was the female allegory of the German nation. Likewise, in the 20th century, as the nationalism developed, the identity of India came to be associated with the image of Bharat Mata. This image was first created by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. In the 1870s, he wrote Vande Mataram, which was a hymn composed towards the motherland. And later on, this song was included in his novel called Anand Mat. And this song was widely sung during the Swadeshi movement in Bengal. And moved by this song during the Swadeshi movement, Abhendranath Tagore, he again painted the picture of Bharat Mata. And in his picture, he portrayed that the Bharat Mata as spiritual, divine, religious and calm. In subsequent years, the image of Bharat Mata acquired many different forms. It got circulated in popular prints and was drawn by different artists. And devotion to this motherland came to be seen as evidence of one's nationalism. Now let's see how Indian folklores were used to develop the nationalism. Indian nationalism also developed through a movement to revive Indian folklores. Means the traditional stories and beliefs, they were made again lively, more stronger and healthier, so that people instill a sense of pride after listening to them. In the late 19th century, the nationalists, they started recording folk tales which was sung by the poets. They started visiting villages, they started collecting these folk songs and the legends, and they have a belief that these folk tales, they gave a true picture of our traditional cultures, which was damaged and corrupted by the outside forces. They told that our traditional culture is to be preserved so that our nation's identity could be kept and restore a sense of pride. Rabindranath Tagore, he himself started collecting ballads, nursery rhymes and myths and led the movement to revive the Indian folklores. Here the ballads means the songs which had stories, the myths, they were the pastime stories which were about gods, of the courageous people. In Madras, Natesha Shastri, he published a massive 4-volume of Tamil folk tales, which he believes that it is the national literature most trustworthy and has real thoughts and the characteristics of the people. Now let's learn how icons and symbols were used to develop nationalism. We have not forgotten, we have learnt in the rise of nationalism in Europe that how icons and symbols were used to arouse the feeling of nationalism. Like oak leaves, they stood for heroism. The broken change, it stood for freedom. So likewise, in India also, as nationalism developed, the nationalist leaders, they were aware of to bring more icons and symbols to instill the feeling of patriotism. During the Swadeshi movement in Bengal, a tricolor flag was designed which had 8 lotuses which represented 8 provinces of British India, and a crescent moon which represented Hindus and Muslims. Children, during the British rule in India, the country was divided into provinces and princely state. Provinces were those which were directly ruled by the Britishers, and princely states where the independent kings used to rule. And during in 1921, Gandhiji also designed a Swaraj flag, which again it was a tricolor, red, green and white. It also had a spinning wheel in the center, which represented Gandhian ideals of self-help. Carrying the flag, holding it aloft was the symbol of defiance, means the open refusal to obey the Britishers. Now let's study the fourth way through which the nationalism was practiced, that was reinterpretation of history. Some Indian scholars, they believe now the Indian history had to be thought of differently, because Britishers, they were thinking Indians as to be backward, primitive and incapable of governing. So Indians in response wanted to rediscover the past and show India's great achievements. They wrote about India's glorious achievements of ancient times, where art and architecture, the trade and crafts, where religion and culture, science and mathematics had flourished. Indian historians, they urged the readers to instill a sense of pride by the achievements, the glorious achievements of India, as well as to come ahead for a united struggle to remove the miserable conditions of the Indians. According to them, Indian glorious achievements had now turned into decline after coming of the Britishers. Thus we had seen how nationalists, artists, craftspersons, poets, they all had a major role in making of nationalism. But the efforts to unify Indian people were not without problem even. The images which were drawn, which were celebrated, they were drawn from Hindu iconographies. The past being glorified, that was also done with the active involvement of Hindus. Thus, the other community, they felt to left out. The growing anger against the British government brought together the different classes, different groups of the Indian society in a united struggle in the first half of the 20th century. The Congress, under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, tried to channel the people's grievances into an organized movement. They had a significant role in weakening the caste system. Thus, through different movements, Congress tried to achieve the national unity. The national movement under Gandhian phase had four main movements. The first was the Rowlatt Satyagraha movement, which took place in the year 1919. The Khilafat non-cooperation movement, which took place from 1920 to 1922. The civil disobedience movement, which took place in the year 1930 and ended in the year 1934. And the last movement under Gandhian phase was the Quit India movement, which took place in the year 1942. On 8th August 1942, the Congress under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi passed out the Quit India resolution, demanding the immediate end of the British rule in India. During this movement, Mahatma Gandhi gave a mantra, do or die. Means there will be an attempt by the Indians to free India, or they will die during the attempts. After the Second World War, the Britishers, they realized they would further no longer be able to rule India, seeing the protests, seeing the demonstration against them. And finally, the Lord Mountbatten, who was the Viceroy of India, he announced that India would become free nation and the state Pakistan will be created along with the free India. Unwillingly, our nationalists, they agreed to the partition, because now they were tired of the communal riots which were taking place in the name of partition. And on 15th August 1947, India became a free nation. But the sense of joy was mixed with pain and sadness of partition. Thus, India became a free nation with the participation of diverse groups of the Indian society with varied expectation and aspirations. Even though the faces of disunity and conflicts were there, but when people stood together as a nation, the British had to leave the country. Thus, the sacrifice of patriots, the martyrs, borne fruit. With this, we have come to an end of this lesson, the rise of nationalism in India. I think all the topics are understood to you. Children, this year we celebrated the 73rd independence. Let's strive together to work on the Indian ethos of love, peace, harmony and brotherhood. We, being the Indian citizens, we need to offer a lot towards our community by living up to the principles of Constitution. As Mahatma Gandhi has said, be the change you want to see in the world. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.